All right, gentlemen and ladies, we'll call the meeting to order. Ms. Margie, it looks like we have all 7 present.
Yes.
All right, the third item on our list today is the departmental budget proposals. The first one is the sheriff's office. And we have the sheriff and his whole administrative staff there. Sheriff, no offense, but they make you look good.
Well, they all make, they make me look good all the time.
Lucy especially, I mean, not the others, but. All right, sir,
They do.
you got the floor.
All right, I've got this on PowerPoint for, actually anybody else want to see it might be a little easier for me to follow, and I got some slides after this, so feel free to interrupt. Going, but, all right, we'll start off. Ready, Sam? Go on. County fiscal administrator office, that's me. You do increase. I'd state increase this year. I don't have anything to do with that. Y'all know that. It covers my chief deputy, my jail administrator, and myself. I have no control over that, the increases. My deputies, you can see on there, you can see the year-to-date expenses. You can see on the last item line over there on my request with no current increases. And then you can see what it is with the, I asked for the raises. 456, and with the Steph, I'm asking 55, 557,440. Next one's my chief deputy, same thing, explain that. And my investigators, and on the investigator slot, there's actually 2 on my investigator slot now. Obviously, Lee Miller left. I have moved Zach Grisser to that spot. It's not showing on here. His salary is still in my deputy salary, so we haven't been moved out yet. Sergeants, you see my sergeants. There's 3 of them. And you can, like I say, if you go all the way across, you'll see what they're making now, what their salary is, and what I'm asking for to go all the way across. And I do want to say this: I'd heard comments, not necessarily, definitely not from any of y'all, but comments about sergeants. And I got sergeants that's not supervising anybody. I don't know where that came from. It's totally, all 3 of my sergeants supervise people, and I've got some sergeants that. In addition to supervising people, for example, Sergeant McDonald, not only is he over our training of all my canines, but he's got the SRT team. He's responsible for our firearm training, and he also runs the day shift. So I don't know where they get that. I don't know where that came from. So, but either of that's totally false. Salary supplements on 140, and if I'm not mistaken, Lucy, that's not in service. That's in service, and it has went up from 21, 22, but that's the state. I don't set the in services for the officers. Clerical personnel, that they're pretty much that. I guess that's with the 1.5% increase. There, most of my clerical people topped out. Part-time personnel, see that. And those include my public information officer and my court security, not the courthouse security, my court officers. And incidentally, my court officers, they're making about 11, a court officer now, about $11.75 an hour. So if you drop down next to the part-time personnel, 80, 169-80 there, that is the courthouse security. Not the courthouse, not the court itself. I'm talking about the actual courthouse you can go in. Now, I didn't put that in. That was something that was put in last year. I didn't ask for that, but it came in under my budget. But since I've got those people, the money, I guess, comes in there. I don't think you get enough from the tax, right, Heather?
Yeah, the litigation tax is about 20%.
Litigation tax is supposed to pay for it. I do not believe that you get enough out of that to pay for it, but the bottom line is, whatever. That was included in my budget. That made my budget go up. I didn't ask for it. I will say this, they make $11.75 an hour, and I got one that drives from Clarksville. So by the time he drives from Clarksville and buys his lunch, I don't know how he makes any money. So, but that's the courthouse. And I will say this too about the courthouse security. You may see it a little bit more in uniforms. I've absorbed the cost for the courthouse security through uniforms and the gun. And I've absorbed that cost. Oh, you should know that front. School resource officers, you can see that right there. School is paid by, 2 of them are paid by the school, and actually 3 of them is paid out of the sheriff's department, but it's all in my budget. It's all in my budget. So, and they did give me one since I came here. There was actually 4 when I was elected, and I got 1 more because they wanted 1 more, so we put another one in there. But they all comes out of my budget regardless. So
There's a total of 5.
I'm sorry.
You said a total of 5.
Total of 5. We have 5 SROs. One of them is a sergeant. I got 2 at the high school and 1 at all the elementary schools and the middle school. So we've got a total of 5. And while we're talking, and I know I talk out of get a little bit off the subject, but you may have saw in the paper we got compared to Crockett County, and that's what I told the paper when they started comparing. They didn't ask me about anything, so that's the reason I called them. Now you can compare all night long. I'm really tired of comparing things, but Crockett County has 7 schools and no SROs. So yes, our budget may be higher in Crockett County and some of these other things, but we're getting a lot more. But I will say this, and I would not do it, but if y'all feel the need and you want to pull an SRO out of the budget, I won't do it, but I'm not going to say anything if you pull that manpower, but I'm not going to do it. Okay? Longevity pay for employees. Overtime, 187, line 187, that's the overtime budget. We asked for the same amount. We went up $200, I think, this year. Went from 4080, we're asking for 41,000 overtime. And sometimes we do pretty good with it, and sometimes, emergency come up, I've got to pay these people to come out and work overtime. The next overtime, 187.47, that is the governor's highway safety money that's put in there. That's a grant we get, and actually I think the grant actually was for like a little bit more than that. Some of it went into equipment, but we put $23,150 of that grant into overtime pay, and that pays officers to come in. The state pays us to come out and do saturation control. So that's what that is. And it's a grant, goes in my budget, but it makes the budget go up. Bonus payments, you said, nothing there. I don't have anything for that one. In the last 2 years when I asked me, no bonus payments or anything, other salary, wages. Other salaries and wages, 189. Lucy?
That's cool.
Corps engineer. Okay, yeah, okay, I'm sorry. That's 1044, I see that now. That money, other salary and wages, that is for the Corps engineers that we patrol during the summer. They put that money, they pay us to do that, but I put that money in my budget, and then we pay that out of there. And again, that's money that goes into my budget. It's not taxpayer money, but it makes my budget go up. In-service training, that actually, 196, that is for new officers. and we stuck it at $4,000. That's about what it costs to send an officer. Now, right now, some of you may have heard Toledo, where we send most of the officers, if we can. You can go, they're going free for the next couple of years. Yeah, I think they took it out of the money that the state had on the governor's initiative, so he's done that, but the thing is getting them in and getting it on time. The nearest I can get somebody in right now is July, and probably by the middle of the month, it'll be September before I can get anybody in. Other than that, we have to send them to Walter State, and that's all the way in East Tennessee. But we only left it at 4,000, and the reason I didn't ask for any more, yes, I'm going to be hiring some more deputies that may not be certified, but right now the state's free, so I'm not going to have to ask for it. I'm not going to have to pay for it unless I send them to Walter State. Next one is Social Security. Next 3, 4 down in Social Security, and I have, like I said, I have no control over any of that. If you go down to 31, I will note on 31, you'll see last year's budget on the retirement, state retirement, was $100,000 for my employees, and on the patrol side, it's went up to almost $18,000. Again, it goes up. There's not anything that I can do about any of that. Those state retirements. Employee and dependent insurance. Take a good look on that one. Last year, $151,200. This year, $182,207. So that's about $30,000. Again, that's up, and if you ask why my budget goes up, I'm giving you the reasons why it's going up. That's not anything that I can control. And I think you obviously know that. All right, if you switch to the second page, because I'm on here, I'm on it with you, but I'm looking at the PowerPoint. You've got life insurance, medical insurance, dental insurance, unemployment compensation, some of that, and I'm not so sure about that one on Lucy 39. You know what? On the second page, the $692 amount. Heather?
Unemployment you're speaking of? Yeah, are you speaking of unemployment?
Yeah.
Yeah, that you have to pay a certain percentage of the employer rate, which is 3% right now for every employee you have up to a maximum amount.
All right, thank you. All right, employee Medicare. Those 3 things, the next 4 is employee Medicare. I have no control over those costs, and they haven't really went up significantly, but they have increased up a little bit. Communication from 307 went to 31,000 last year, and asking for the same amount this time. Data processing services went up. Actually, it's the same thing. 2022, 23, and now 2024. We're not asking for an increase in any of that. Dues and memberships on 320. That's staying the same. License, and we're talking about license for vehicles, $210. Believe it or not, every time we get a vehicle and we retire one, we can't use this license plate, which makes no sense to me with the state, but we have to buy a new license plate for it. Maintenance agreements, repairs and services. The biggest one there is on 338. You'll see it's at 30,000, and it's one at 32.5. And Lucy, if you want anything, I need exactly what the agreements are. I'm sorry. Okay. Vehicle maintenance. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the office. Medical and dental services, postal service, tow-in services. And let me say something about the tow-in services too. Last year we went to $4,000 because when we tow a vehicle, we obviously have to pay to have it towed in. We dropped that down a little bit, but what we started doing, especially on these drug arrests, and we know it's gonna be drug charges, and then really some of them not, it's where an officer can drive it in, we'll do it, and we still charge them a certain amount to bring the vehicle in instead of having it towed. Because one reason is on the towing, for example, if we seize a vehicle and I have it towed in, and the tow bill is about $225, $250. If I seize that vehicle and bring it in, even if it's awarded to us, I still got to pay that $250 out of that. So if we actually tow them in and drive them in, which we can do that, I don't have to pay. We get the vehicle awarded to us, that saves us $250. It saves the county $250, if that makes sense. Travel. And that's travel for training for my deputies and everyone. We kept that the same at $15,000. Animal food supplies, that's $5,000. We actually went up. I actually asked for a $1,500 increase in that. That's for our canines. But, and I say a but with that, we every year receive a donation. And I'm not going to name them because I don't think they want to be named, but they receive at least a $5,000 donation for our K9. So it's not costing us really anything to do that. The K9, the donations offset that, and that's we did increase $600,050 this time, but we have a donation that offsets that. But we still have to, even the donations have got to be included in the budget. And right now, we do have 4. I got 4 right now. They cover pretty much every shift. So I have seen no reason to cut 4 or do any less because they pay for themselves time and time again. In addition, they provide safety to the deputy who's they train with and who cares for them. If they don't have a backup close, that dog can serve as a backup, and I think we've already proved that in a couple of instances. Food supplies, there's no cost on that. We didn't add anything to that. Gasoline, we upped that $10,000. You see, last year or this budget year we had $75,000. We are bumped it up to $85,000. And your guess is as good as mine if that's going to work. Because I have no control over the gasoline, and I think Mr. Watkins there knows more than anybody about the gasoline and diesel. I mean, it goes up, and I have no control of it. Hopefully that 85 will cover it, but like I say, there again, that's increase in gasoline. I have no control over that. Instructional supplies, that's $1,000. We put in for instructional supplies and pamphlets and things like that if we would need it. We did not add, we cut that out this year, this next budget year, cut that out. I think things like that, if I need to, I can probably take it out of my drug fund. The law enforcement supply, $6,000. Got in there for, I think it's different law enforcement supplies. Office supplies, $435, $500. We did increase it because that office supplies and everything went up. We went up $250. Tires and tubes. I don't have to tell you about that either. Car tires, truck tires have went up drastically. We've had to increase our budget from $25,000 to $30,000. So we're at $5,000, and I think Mr. Watkins can tell you again, he knows about the tires and the buses and everything. So it's the same thing with the tires. And I think the ambulance service can tell you the same thing, and the highway department can tell you the same thing. We hope it doesn't go any higher. Uniforms. We actually went down in uniforms this time. We had actually, our budget year has been amended to $12,631. We try to keep it at $10,000 for the next budget year. And some of it I can take out of the drug fund if I need it. So if we go over, I can use it there. And like I said again, I just absorb the cost in these uniforms for the courthouse security. And the thing you gotta remember about these uniforms, ways too, to remember this, when I have officers quit, I have most of the time buy a new uniform. Most everybody's not the same size, and some of them can be reused. And I don't reuse the boots and things like that, so I have to replace that. So when I have a turnover officer, it makes my uniforms go up, obviously. 81 on the uniforms there, that was a donation, and we don't have that for the upcoming budget. In-service staff development, in 524, we kept that the same as this past year. For other charges under 599,000, kept that the same. Law enforcement equipment, this budget year we went up about $1,000 and something dollars. What is that, about $1,900 for law enforcement equipment. Now I do want to say this, and I had to put this out, which I think Heather knows it, but we did receive from the Violent Crimes Initiative grant, we did receive a $59,000 grant that for equipment. We filed for it, and thanks to Chief Deputy Ward for filling all that paperwork and stuff out, we got $59,000, and that to be used for equipment. It's very specific. We had to put in what we use it for, but we're going to use that for vests and for shields and for tasers. So we had to be very specific on what we want to use for. But the bottom line is we got that money. And I think half of it goes into the budget year we're in now, or most of it, and the rest of it goes into next year. And there again, it's a grant. It goes in my budget, but it does make my budget go up. It doesn't make the taxpayers, it costs the taxpayers anything. On page 3, law enforcement equipment, you see we had for 81, and that was donations, 716.92. That was Paw Patrol donations, 5,000, and that was for our Paw Patrols that they had donated. We got donation for kennels and things for the pets and inmates program that we run, and that was a donation. And I'm not sure if that's going to carry over or not. But motor vehicles, 2716.73. Now, I'm going to be clear on this right here. When it says motor vehicles and what that is, 2467. There's nothing showing in this upcoming year with that. But what that is, that's insurance recovery money. So when we have a wreck, we total out a vehicle, we hit a deer, we have to pay the deductible, or somebody hits us. But that 2467 is insurance money that was put back in, and it goes back in the budget, and then it looks like for motor vehicles, and it's like, but it increases the budget, but it's insurance money that goes back into our budget. And I think about a couple of years ago, a few years ago, we had about 80,000 go into that, and a lot of that, we hit a lot of deer, unfortunately. I wish I would find a way to stop some of that, but we do. Other equipment on 719 with 5,000. 719-101, that's a TCI grant equipment, corrections, grant equipment. And let's see, the 950, that's 935 for the upcoming years. We didn't ask for anything on the upcoming year. That's 9, and that's 47. That's the Tennessee Highway Safety money. The 9,235. That's equipment that I was telling you about earlier. 10,000 of it, and put it into equipment. That was a grant we got, about the $30,000 grant, $30,000 we got. So we put in an overtime, and the rest of it went into equipment. And we can buy certain equipments with that money. And again, that's grant money that goes into the budget. 92, you'll see that. That's from CARES COVID money. And we're not, none of that goes into, it follows into the next year's budget. Now, Heather, correct me wrong about that $8,000 for the swing set.
Correct.
Okay, that doesn't go, if you're going over the next year's budget, or
We would only amend it in next year's budget if it wasn't spent this year.
it's what now?
We would only amend it into next year's budget if it was not spent this year.
Okay,
If
but
it
we
wasn't-
will, we'll have to do that.
Yeah, and that's why we cost center the separate items, yeah, so the.
And I know it's a little strange, because I tell you what that $8,000 was for. That $8,000 was, I had talked to the former mayor about this, and that $8,000 is for, I asked if we could have some of that COVID, or some of the money that was left over to put handicap swings at the park at Dyers Creek for wheelchairs. There's no place, and we have enough left, we're gonna do the same in the city. Okay, so that's what that $8,000 is for, so. All right,
All right, we're at the,
I'm sorry,
I was gonna say, we're at the end of page 3 there.
that's it.
Okay, we're gonna stop right there. Anybody got any questions on the first 3 pages? A lot of information there.
I have a question.
Yep.
Based upon the numbers that's been provided tonight, if this is correct, the 22-23 amended budget, 1.9 million in page 3, correct?
1.908, yes.
Okay. Come over to 2023-24 proposed budget with 5%. That's showing 1.872 million, correct? Okay. So that's about $36,000 more. Is my cipher correct?
It is, but when the budget's amended, there's amended revenue in there as well.
Okay.
Typically, almost all his amendments are getting offset with a revenue source.
Okay. But I'm just saying.
Yeah, but you are
Based on
correct.
the numbers, that's $36,000 more or less
Less.
than the amended budget.
Correct.
With the other big steps in it, that's approximately $195,000 more.
Correct.
Okay, I'm done.
Anybody else?
Yeah, and you want, I would rather if we just go on past this other part, the increase and change right there. I mean, about what I'm requesting for hourly, I've got that in another slide to be a little bit easier to follow.
We'll get to that. I want to make sure they got everything here done.
Yeah,
Before we move on.
Get ready.
I've got just a couple of questions, and I've asked this to every department, so. In the deputy line item, how many employees are paid from that line item?
Should be 22. Correct? 22, 22, because it's not including, keep that
And
now.
so that one's,
And that includes investigators too.
and the investigators are 2 in that line?
Should be.
So there's 22 in the deputy line and 2 in the investigator line, is that correct?
That would include the 22.
So 20
22 altogether, including 2 investigators.
So 20 in the deputy line and 2 in the investigator line. And then sergeants, there were 3, or, is that right?
That's not,
That's
well,
going
that's not
to
correct.
include the sergeant. You're asking, when I say deputies, I include them, but that's going to include everybody.
Okay.
He's trying to look at it per line item, there's 13.
The 13 in the
13 in the line item for deputies. Then you have 1 in this, of course, sheriff is 1, the chief is 1, investigators is 1 in that line item. And then you've got sergeants is 3, and the SROs is 5, and clerical is 2.
And then part-time?
Part-time, again, that can vary throughout the year, but right now he's budgeting on 4 in the first part-time line item, and the second one is 2. And that's where he's saying 22 officers is all his officers counted up, plus himself and the chief.
Yeah, which I got.
You said 4 and 6.
All right. Any other questions?
How many employees do you have all together, talking about jail or
Correct,
everybody?
Sergeant. That should be, and you asked me, I should know this, right, should be 54.
54?
Correct, Sam, 30 inside and then 24. Should be 54. And I apologize, Clint, I'm used to when people ask me how many deputies I've got, I'm just including it as a lump sum. That's usually what they're asking me for, the total amount.
Well, I'm gonna ask the SRO question. In light of everything that's been going on in the state this week, one of the SROs you've got out on the road and not in the school right now.
Yes.
So at any time has the schools been unprotected?
Well, no.
Okay.
And yesterday, we had a little bit, I don't say this is a snafu, it was a thing where the SRO to high school had to leave, so Dale Morgan went over there, and when he let us know, I think the city even come over, but we all,
That's good.
Sergeant McDonald, myself, and everybody else,
Yeah.
and then I actually, after I got through and Sergeant McDonald got through, I pulled David Miller back over off the road and just told him to go over and stay till that.
Well, I think that's a very important thing. It is for me right now, so.
Well, it is, and it is for me, and I talked to you yesterday about something I'm working for the fall, but it is very important keeping SROs there, and I don't like it. And here's the other thing too, I want to make it clear that I had to do that because, I was 3 people short, and 3 people short on the road, so I had to do that. But the good thing is, I worked it with the schedule and everything. After tomorrow, Deputy Miller, SRO Miller, will be back after spring break. When spring break comes back, he'll be back in the high school or the middle. He'll be back at the elementary school. Dale Morgan will be back at the high school, so we'll be back square again.
Well, I'm not trying to micromanage what you're
No,
doing. I
that's,
just want to know.
right now, I mean, I don't know if there's ever been any more concern about not
Sure.
having SRO. And my point to that is, like I said earlier, when you start comparing things, and when I go to the slide, we'll talk about the language, but you compare things, compare to other counties, and, we're not, they don't pay as much as we do, but we got SROs in every school.
And I appreciate
And 1 and 2 and 2, and 2 in one of the schools. And I don't know too many that's got 2 in one school.
That's right.
And, I agree with you.
They work hard. They work hard. Any more?
How many deputies are you short right now? Just one?
Well, and I say that short, yes, I'm still gotta hire another one. I got one that's hired, and he won't go to academy until July, I think. I've got one that's in training. So I'll be honest with you, if you want by count, I'm down 1, but by road and everything, I'm down 3, because I've got one in training, one's fixing to start training, and one's just starting, and they're I can't count them as a person because they're in training, so really I'm a shift down.
How long is that training process from the time the person leaves?
For this one out, he'll be through after next week. He should be. He's calling pretty quick. He's already certified, so he went through the training. We shortened it. It's kind of an accelerated thing, but normally we run about 10 to 12 weeks on the field training once they get out of the academy. So you figure 10 weeks of academy and
So 6
12
months.
weeks. And so you're looking at a long time before you get them out.
All right, any more questions? Page 1 through 3. All right, sir, we're going to go to 4 and 5. That's the step scale change proposal, current versus proposed.
Yeah. Do you want to go back to up to you, where do you want to go?
Yeah, we won't go to the step scale.
You want to go to step scale?
That's what we got on the agenda. I really don't, it don't matter to me.
I don't think I have that on the PowerPoint, that part of what's on here, but we'll be glad to go over the step.
I was gonna say, well, if you wanna go on to the jail, we can go to page 8 and 9 and look at that.
I would rather get it, because that kind of
Okay.
puts them all together.
Okay,
So I can
we're gonna go to page 8 and 9. Budget proposals from the jail.
All right, on the jail. Y'all ready? On the jail, for supervisor, director, motel administrator, you got his salary, and he has went up because the state raised that. On the guards, and I don't like calling them guards, but correctional officers, but if you go up, and you can see, it's really 84765, I think is budget request for next year, 848,000, and you can see it'll go up to $1,005.
Sheriff, how many people is that? Is it 20, 29?
I mean,
29.
29, that would leave out my jail administrator,
Right.
so, and there's 30, including him, yes. Move on down, longevity pay, I don't have any, obviously, on that. Overtime pay, I'm keeping that the same, and that's pretty tough, to do that, but we managed so far to spend about half that overtime. Well, I'll say about a third of the overtime this year as of December, and I think we're probably going to be over halfway through that overtime. But we managed to do that and not raise the overtime. Of course, obviously, if the salaries go up, the overtime will be raised up a little bit because I'm paying them more. In-service training, $500 for that's the same. 201, 204, Social Security and state retirement, it has went up, but I have no control over that, obviously. Just like employee insurance, it's went up about $12,000, and all these things make, obviously, my budget go up without my control. Life insurance, see that, very went up on 206, medical insurance, dental insurance, on 208, unemployment compensation, Medicare. I'm going through these kind of quickly if you got a question, because I don't really have any control over any of those things. The next one, big one, 312 contracts with private agencies. That includes all the contracts, including food services. Now, and again, I want to explain, and I knew it got up, and it was about 21%. It went up this year, but I didn't realize monthly till Heather said something about it, and Lucy and I got to looking at it, and I knew it went up. But food services for the sheriff's office, when I started in July, we were paying them about $2,500 a week for food services. Now, it's went up through the year and throughout the year, and I'm thinking I'm going to try to rebid it, but as of right now, we're paying $3,600 a week. So that's $1,100 a week. So you average it out from last year, if it stays like that, that's over $52,000 that food services went up. I have to feed the inmates, so I don't have any control over that. I don't like it. We're looking at some other options, but you have to be careful because, if you bid it out, you may not get a good service as what you've got now, but we're working on it. But that such $52,000 is what it's going to average out to, and possibly next year. Lease payments, 330. Maintenance agreements, it's actually $40,000 this year. We dropped that down to $33,000, and that's on maintenance agreements on different agreements we have on, obviously on the maintenance. Maintenance and service repair on building, we kept that the same, $35,000. Maintenance, repair on service and equipment, kept that the same at $5,000 on line 336. Medical and dental services, $125,000, and we upped that $5,000, and that's the medical and dental insurance on inmates. And obviously, I have no control over that. But I will say this: when we like somebody for some reason, an inmate, or we get them in here and they've got some kind of illness, we obviously have to pay for it. But Lucy does a great job at calling these hospitals and negotiating it with us, and she generally can get the bill down a lot. So she earns her keep on that part. But obviously, I think you already know it, we have to pay the medical costs on these inmates. We have to do it. I have no other recourse. We've got, if we've got a female that comes in that's pregnant, and if she's still there when she has the baby, then we have to pay for it. And we try to furlough and get those people out. But, we've got people that come in and they're diagnosed with cancer. And a lot of these inmates, a lot of them, they may be on medication and may things, but they probably don't take it when they're out. But once they get inside the jail, they want all the medical, they want every pill that's prescribed for them, and we have to pay for the prescription. Pest control, that's the same for the detention center and sheriff's office. Travel, we actually knocked that down, Sam, and I think I did that while you were gone, so you didn't know it. We knocked it down to $5,000. We went on vacation, I'm sorry. We knocked that, we was trying to cut it down, so I cut it down, and we'll try to get, that's travel for training, for the other 29 employees over there. Drug and medical supplies, it went up, and we did have to go up about 10,000. Now, I'm sorry, I'm skipping custodial supplies there. It's pretty much stayed the same, but honestly, you bought custodial cleaning supplies, they went up. But we left that the same. Electricity, 415, we went up $5,000 on that, and we're hoping that will be all right. We're hoping it will. Food supplies, kept that at $1,500. Office supplies for the sheriff's office, for the jail side on $435. We kept it the same, $4,500. Kept it the same as we had the last couple of years. Prisoners' clothing, we kept that at $2,000. We try to repair as many as we can, but as many inmates as we run in and out, $2,000 is pretty cheap for housing and clothing. I'm sorry, clothing all the inmates that we run through there with the clothes that we have to provide. Propane, we had to go up a little bit on propane, $35,000. We went and raised that $5,000 because propane has gone up, and we hope that's gonna work. Uniforms, $6,000, and we kept it at $6,000. And there again, I said this before, but when I lose employees, a lot of times, most of the time, I won't be able to use a lot of the uniforms, and definitely not the shoes and some of the other things that they wear. So we had to buy new uniforms, but we kept that the same at $6,000. Water and sewage, $40,000. That's what we budgeted for 2022, 23, and we're keeping it the same the upcoming year. In-service staff development, we raised that just a little bit, $600, and we may be all right on that. We may not need that, but we usually do pretty good on that. Other charges on the it was $2,000 last year. We kept it the same. Furniture and fixtures on the jail side for chairs and furniture and different fixture stuff. We got $3,000. We kept that at the same. Office equipment, $2,500. We kept that the same. And other equipment, kept it the same. So, and that brings the budget on the jail side $2,011,342. That is up from the 1.943. But, and there again, I think I showed you where a lot of the costs were. I mean, it's not anything that, other than adding a little bit for travel, or a little bit for furniture, fixtures, or some training. We just didn't add anything. It just, all costs that went up.
All right, guys, we got page 8 and 9. We're at the end of that. Any questions for the sheriff on pages 8 and 9?
All right, let's see. We need to go.
Hold on just a second, Sheriff. Let's see if we got any questions.
So $68,000 increase this year to next, based on 5%. And about $314,000 increase.
If you're basing my employees on 5%.
Yeah, if you're looking at this year's amended budget, it's about $68,000 more that's being requested. Correct?
Yeah, if we're with
5%. Yes. And total budget about $314,000 with the other.
Well, and since you brought that up, and I wasn't going to say anything, but I guess you opened the door, so I can speak my piece on the 5%.
That's fine.
Okay. At this point, and I'll be honest, and I don't want to insult anybody, but 5% pay increase across the board is irresponsible. And I'll tell you why. Because I want all employees, and not the sheriff's department, I want everybody to get paid adequately. You understand that? But 5%, first of all, it's inadequate for my people. Right? And 5% to my jailers back there, 52 cents starting pay, 56 cents. And it's not fair. And I know you do it and you say it's fair and you give everybody the same thing, but we're not. We're not giving the same thing. It's an easy way to do, but when you pay somebody, if you go across the board 5%, you're creating a greater disparity from the top and the bottom, because you've got people at the top making more. And I'm not saying they don't deserve 5%. What I'm saying is that it's not going to do my people any good. Because if you take 5%, if you take all the employees and I put them in a can, I got my employees that are making adequate pay in the county, and I got people that are making money, they're grossly underpaid, like my people back there, and you put them in a can and you sprinkle 5% and you shake it up and everything, when you open it back up, what have you got? You still got my people at the bottom that are grossly underpaid, and it's not going to help them. It's not help them 5%, but if they're making $12 an hour and they get 5%, they get a 60 cents raise. If you've got employees that are making $22 an hour and they get 5%, they're getting $1.20 or $1.10, I'm sorry. And it's not fair. It's not fair to them. It's not fair. And I'm not saying, I'm not trying to beat out the people who's getting paid more. I'm not saying they deserve it, but what I'm trying to say is 5% is not going to help my people. Not real. And it's going to, think about it, if you do that, next year when you open up this can, you got the same problem. You got the same problem that you got right now. So we can either try to fix it, or you can kick that can around the road till next year, and you got the same problem. And that's what I'm trying to get. And you opened the door for me, so I got to speak my mind on that. So thank you. But I wasn't going to bring it up, but you can't do it. But and I will say this too. While we're talking, you open the door. And I'll say that, I was talking to somebody the other day, and I forgot what they were saying. And they were saying, we're talking about deals, and they said something about the best deal in Stewart County. And I told them, I said, no, you know what the best deal in Stewart County is? Best deal in Stewart County is what my employees at the jail and the sheriff's department are doing for this county for what they pay. And that's the best deal in Stewart County right now. What we're paying those people back there, best deal in Stewart County. It's the best deal for the county, not for the county. That's the best deal. And I'll get off my soapbox. Let's go. I'm sorry.
All right, since it was opened up, I guess I can speak. So the 5% that I have proposed might not help the sheriff and his department as the best. I'm not for sure. But the sheriff is the one set his pay scale when the sheriff come in. Not you guys, not her. He said it. Nobody else in the county has that far widespread. So is he right? Sure. Those guys at the bottom aren't going to catch up near as fast. He's correct. But nobody else said his pay scale in the rest of the county is not like that either. So to say it's irresponsible is just uneducated.
We walked through the door, I believe deputies were making around 14 something an hour. And we were able to get that pay up to 15, 16. Because I just couldn't see bringing somebody in here for $14 an hour to do the job that they did. So we were able to get, with the commission's help, get that pay up to 15, 16. Is that good? Well, it's better than what they were making. And I ain't even speaking from the jailers. But I can tell you one thing, and I know y'all seen this video. I put my guys up in Nashville. They had to go in, every one of them would, for the money they made. I wouldn't doubt it one bit. But yeah, we set our pay scale. It was low to begin with, and we tried to bring it up. And I think Heather can speak. We've actually been able to move them up a little bit more based on attrition, based on people that have left. And we've been able to bump those guys that are down at the bottom a little bit higher, but it still ain't enough. And it's not.
I understand that, and I'm completely for those guys. And y'all both know I was there. I was there for almost 10 years. I started out making $13.11 and working 3 jobs. I want them to make more money. I want everybody to succeed in the county. But when you continually bring in new help, we can go back to the 2018 budget. You cannot keep bringing in new help and spreading your wages out. It is on black and white where your wages have went up over $300,000 since 2018, and your guys haven't got a penny of that hardly because you keep adding officers and adding officers. I'm not saying we don't even need it, But to say that, you know, I really took it that 5% is irresponsible, not when you went up 300 and something $1,000 in 4 years. And your guys, to my knowledge, haven't got hardly any of it. Well, they went from 1137 to 1190 in 4.5 years. I mean, sure, that's not enough money. I'll be the first one to say that. There's other ways to do it than hitting every citizen's pocket too.
Well, and another thing that's said, and it's been said, and especially it's said in law enforcement, and I've heard it mentioned from some other people too, and especially about my deputies, they know what they were making when they took the job. Now, I hear that. Now, I want to say this. Yes, they know what they were taking. I don't know anybody in here that takes a job that don't know what they're making. But I don't know, and I've never told any employees, and I bet none of those are people that don't work for the sheriff's office have ever been told. Yes, here's your job, here's what you're making. But in the future, do not expect to be compensated for what you do. I never heard that. I don't think anybody ever tells them that. So to say that, yeah, somebody knows what their job pays when they take it is absolutely ridiculous. I'm not saying any of y'all said that. I'm saying it. And I'm not, when I said that it's irresponsible, I'm saying it's irresponsible for a lot of people. And it's irresponsible, in my opinion, for my people. Because it's not going to help the problem. It's not going to help the problem. So, I'm ready to move on now.
Okay.
Mr. Joyner,
Let's, pages 8 and 9. Anybody got any more questions about 8 and 9? I want just to say one thing, Sheriff, we're going to educate. We're going to remind Mr. Teever, the last meeting, you said let's think back to the last year's budget when we were sitting here. When we were sitting here last year, you didn't ask for a raise, and I'm going to speak for you. You tell me if I'm wrong.
Yes, sir.
That it was 2 of y'all that really needed the raise and the scale changed, and you stepped back so the paramedics could get a raise. Am I telling that right?
Yes, sir. I talked to Greg, and we both were asking for raises, and then I think, you know, if both of them would be approved, and I think I told John, I told Greg, I'm going to withdraw my request for my people, but I said I will be back. And I'm back, but yes,
You're back. Okay.
I did do that. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. That's right. Okay. Okay. What have you got on your phone?
Well, that's drug fund if you need to see that.
Okay.
You got it on your list there.
Okay. So drug fund is page 12 and 13.
And that will be very short. You ready, Sam? On the drug fund, if you got any questions, you can see the towing services we got, no law enforcement charges, the equipment. Bottom line is, on most of it, I have, that's just money we take out of the drug fund and put in there. And it does make, I think, $53,000, let's see what we're putting in this year. That's right. I'm taking that out of my balanced drug fund. I put it in my budget. It makes my budget go up some, but that's about what I think I'll spend out of my drug fund. If I don't spend it, I'll just go backwards. If I put it in there, we want to try to spend it. So.
All right. Any questions on page 12 and 13? All right, Sheriff.
All right, and you've got that, so if you got any questions, look, I'll just rearrange this just a little bit different. Sam, let's go on. I put this in here, and this, don't take this, I'm pointing out and saying this person, this person, this person. The reason I put these up here, and I say I figured it out, these were the actual audited budgets and what was requested in 2022. The reason I put that in here, these increases, because I know my budget has increased 27 and then on jail 30%. But the reason I put that in there is to show all budgets that increase in this county. So, and it's just not my budget, and some of these, for example, the mayor, and I know the mayor not here, that don't include this year, that was before him, Lexington, because it was from 2019 audit to the last year. But and I broke this down in percentages to show you, and ambulance service is not right, that's supposed to be 27%, but anyway, those were just totals that I got there, and I only did it to show budgets are going up. So, and granted, mine went up 27%, and I realize that the jail and the sheriff's office are two of the largest budgets, and I remember that. I mean, I know that, but you gotta remember, I've got some of the largest amount of people too. So, okay, Sam, go on. What I put on here, what the county's gotten since 2018, we come in and all my budgets went up. But I can honestly say this, we have lowered the crime rate. I mean, we've increased, and I say we, my people have increased the solvability rate on crime. We've increased by 400% the number of drug charges and arrests that we've made. I've added a bunch of community programs. We've added a long list of multiple rehab programs for inmates, and you add that all up, and people can argue, but if you don't think the county's safer now than it was in 2018 and 2019, you're welcome to dispute that, but I can tell you, I think the county's safer. And that's what you have got. And the budgets, it went up, and my budgets went up, but like I said, very little of it's been in my control. So, all right, real quick, surrounding counties, I'll show you this real quick. This comparison, it shows what the surrounding counties are paying for deputies and correction officers. And there again, I've done this in October of last year. So this is about getting close to a year old. Some of them have maybe already changed it. And I also want to show you, you see that 1457, that's what I actually start someone out with no certification. You got certification when you start out at 1546. And I don't think the pay scale that I'm asking for, definitely don't think it's out of line. I really don't.
I know you don't like comparisons, but since you compared, I'll let you know, I talked to the mayor even as early as today of Houston County. They do start out at $20 an hour. They do have benefits. Their sheriff's department does not elect those benefits because they can't afford them. They do start out.
Correction, Mayor. Okay, somebody's lying. The sheriff's lying and the mayor's lying.
That'll be up to them too. They can
Okay,
find it out.
they can find it out. But I called the sheriff the other day before, and I made sure, and I asked him, they get type 2 insurance, they get retirement, and they get pay, they get the vacation pay after a year. The only thing, the benefits they don't get in the sheriff's department, and Sheriff Suggs told me this, was they don't get holiday pay. Now, unless he's lying, I'll call him on the phone, but that's exactly what he told me.
Getting benefits and being able to afford them is two completely different things, Sheriff. I'm sorry to tell you.
Well,
With the $20 an hour, they also have 13 allocated sheriff's deputies in their budget. They have 6 right now. They have 6 full-time deputies because the sheriff elected to pay his deputies more and spread that money out and not give it back to the county. That's up to them. I don't know how they do it with 6 deputies. I feel for them. But since we're comparing, I wanted to throw that out there. I'll give you all the mayor's number. You can take it up with him. All he did was look at his budget.
Well, that's what the sheriff told me. I called him, double checked on that. So it's Suggs lying to me. He's telling me that, and it's not true lying, but that's exactly what he told me.
I'm not saying he's lying. They did tell me they offered benefits. The
exactly.
mayor's secretary told me that. She said, but our guys cannot afford to take it.
And the people at the jail told me the same thing, because that's a jailer waited at the jail first, and then I asked the Suggs, and that's exactly what he told me. But I'm not comparing, and I'm sitting here and compare all night, because every time I compare something, like Montgomery County, people say, well, you can't compare us to Montgomery County. Okay, I can't compare Montgomery County. I can tell you what they're making. Okay, well, Cumberland City's paying $20 an hour. You can't compare us to Cumberland City. They've got 2 people. Okay, then who you want me to compare you to? They compare me to Crockett County. They've got the same amount of people, almost the same amount of deputies, and they're starting their deputies out at $19.95 uncertified. They're starting the correction officers out at $18.50. So, I mean, look, I don't know who to compare them to. What I'm saying is that the closest guideline as I can get to what my people need to be paid. And I don't care, and I don't know who's not telling the truth and who's not. But it doesn't matter. Look at what my people are making. Bottom line, look what they're making in today's society, and you say that's fair, and it's not comparable. I don't know, but I'm just telling you, that's not fair up there, and that's comparable.
I'm not saying it's fair. You never heard me say it was fair.
I don't think you did say it wasn't fair. I never heard you say anything that was fair. I'm just saying, you saying I can't compare them to that. What I'm saying is, tell me somebody to compare them to.
I'm not saying, you're the one who said you didn't like comparisons. I don't either, because we're unlike anybody else.
Well, you just told me.
But you just put a
with all due
comparison up
respect,
there.
Mayor, you just told me, so well, you can't compare them to him. They got 6 employees. Well, my point is, who do you want me to compare them to? I can't make up a city or a county out here and say, okay, let's compare them to that. Or do you want me to go around and I can't find somebody that's got the same exact size and employees? I just come close. But what I'm saying is that's a very comparable wage. That's what these guys need to be making. And that's not extravagant and that's not over the limit, because what I'm asking for is less than what most agencies are paying. And I don't care if they've got 200 employees or 2. And that's what I'm saying for. That's what I'm saying. Okay, Sam, let's move on. That's the same thing with the city. Last 12 months, I've had 21 correctional officers have left for other jobs. Okay? Go back, Sam. This is what it's costing me. Or what it costs when I lose a correctional officer. But uniform, equipment, and training per correctional officer. And that's in red at the bottom of it. But if you want to figure that up at 21 people at 36,000, actually, I'm sorry, 3,600, I'm sorry. That's $75,600. That's what I mean. 21 paid correctional officers at $3,600. That's basically, now all of those are not one-year employees, but about 75% of them, or 80, have been there less than a year. And that's why I'm throwing money out the window. Okay, go Sam. Turnover of deputies, last 12 months, I've actually had 7, but I said 6 have left for better paying jobs because I don't want the other one left for. Tuition at academies, I put that up there, runs between $3,800 and $4,200, and unless I can get them in free, and we'll see about that. If I can get them in free for the next 2 years, that's what it's saying. You can say what uniforms, boots, vests, and everything else. It cost me about a new deputy $18,418 to get a new deputy certified and ready to go. If I can get one that's certified at $6,238, that's what it will cost me to get a deputy certified. That's what if I get a start. And let me tell you, I don't have a long list of certified deputies that I want to come here for our starting pay. And if I can get them, I can get them. And most of them, if I've got any, I have to look them over good, because a lot of times the ones you're getting for that can work other places, a lot of them may have problems. So that's the reason, but I just don't have the applications. Okay. So here's what I'm asking for. Currently it's $14.57 for under-75 and $15.46. I'm requesting increase until certified for that to go to $17.50. After the first year, I'm going to go to $19.
If you'll look on page 5, you'll see what he's talking about.
After 2 years, I'm asking for the pay to go up $20, and after 6 years, it'll go to 21. 9 years, $21.50, and for 10 years, $22, and I'll be out of here. So I'll have somebody else to worry about it. Promise you. And I think that what I'm requesting, and very modest, and without using the word comparing.
And this is on the patrol deputy,
It's on patrol.
SRO.
My investigators, and I'm including SROs in that. So, currently, my investigator is 1707, 1796. I'm requesting them to get bumped up to $21.50. After 3 years, they go to $22. 5 years, they go to $22.50. 7 years, $23, and 9 years, $23.50. That's what I'm asking for. Sergeants, $16.40. Currently starting one out, requesting increase $22.50. They have a lot of responsibility. After 3 years, go to $23. And that 23, that's a sergeant here, been here 3 years, $23, and most 3-year patrolmen anywhere else is making more than that. 5 years, $23.50, 7 years at $24, and 9 years at $24.50. That's what I'm asking for on my sergeants. Correctional officers making $11.98 starting out. I'm requesting an increase in new hire, $14. After they get certified in basic training, I'm asking for 15. After 4
Page
years,
10 and 11 to get
I know
that.
I'm going fast, I know.
You're fine, you're
You
fine.
make 10 or 11.
10 and 11.
4 years at $16, after being here 4 years, 7 years, 17, and 10 years, 18.
Here, look at page 11, that's where you're.
And I'll slow down a little bit.
You're all right, you're all right.
Okay. All right, okay, Sam. Sergeants, I'm sorry. Sergeants into jail, I'm sorry. Requesting an increase of $16 an hour. 4 years, they go to 17. After 7 years, they go to 18. And after 10 years, 20. I got correctional, I got 2 lieutenants over there, and they're currently at $18, and both of them have been there for a pretty good while. After 4 years, I'm going to go to $19. After 7 years, I'm going to go to 20, and I'm asking at 10 years, I'll go to 21.
Sir, as of right now, if I'm making a correction, they're currently at 1510.
I'm
I
sorry.
think the 18 is what we proposed to they go to.
Okay, yeah, currently, I've typed that up wrong, I'm sorry. So they're at 15, my lieutenants are at 15.
Sir.
I'm sorry, I typed that up wrong. I knew that was wrong. Thank you for, all right. What to expect, I'll put this on here to give you an idea, and I'm not blowing smoke, I'm just telling you what to expect. If pay is not corrected on my patrol side, if I continue to lose certified deputies, it's going to be a lower level of service, it'll be a longer response time, and like we said earlier, I don't think anybody in this room can question how important it is to have response time now, quick response time. That's what happened next. And if I keep losing deputies, and I've only got 1 deputy on the road, or I'm having to answer calls out of the office to back that deputy up, or my chief deputy, the response time is going to be longer. Some of these calls we may not respond to. These, for example, we go to every call. And I say this because somebody says, yeah, I might have had it happen. People in this county, if they lock their cars out in the morning while they're warmed up to go to work, we go in and lock it. Things like that. These reports and stuff, we may be taking over the phone, we may not be going. I guarantee you'll see an increase in drug activity. If I don't have these deputies, you'll see an increase in property crimes, and they'll go up. Because when your drug crimes increase, your property crimes are going to increase. And there's a possibility, and I'm going to do everything in my possibility if I have to work a school myself, not to have to make sure I've got an SRO in all the schools. That's starting next year, but that's a possibility. There's a greater risk to my deputies because they don't have the backup out there. There's a decline in serving the warrants and civil process, and I've already had people complain. Luckily, we're trying to get caught up about eviction notices and the divorce papers and you name it, but we try to serve them. But I can only serve with the deputies that I've got. And in addition to doing all that, they're trying to train officers. So, no, you know, I don't want to cut out funeral escorts, but there's a possibility they may not have deputies to do it. And there's no services to our elderly. And I've got a bunch of other things. I say no services to the elderly. If you don't know it, elderly people who can't get to the pharmacy, get to drug medicine, if they call us, we'll go pick it up and take it to them. If they can't get groceries, we go pick it up. They call it in, we go pick it up and take it to them. We go out and pick up. If they have their spouse die, and I have a lot of this where elderly people die and they've got tons of medicine left over, I don't make them bring it. We'll go out there and pick it up. And a lot of times it's a half a garbage bag full, but we go by and pick it up. Those are just all little bitty things, but some of these things, something's going to have to go if I keep losing deputies, and I'll be honest with you. Okay, Sam? Correction officers, if this pay is not corrected, what possibly happened, and I'll talk to these guys, and patrol and on my jail side, and I'm asking them to stay with me. I said, please stay with me till July 1st till we see how this comes. I'm asking you to do that, and most of them have. But I promise you this, I feel confident. If I don't get some of this pay corrected, I'm going to have a mass exit of correction officers. If that has to happen, I may have to shut down pods. And if that means moving inmates, and like I said, Crockett County was in the same boat we were in 3 years ago, and last year they shut their jail down. till they got their pay up. They moving inmates at $35 a day somewhere else. That's a revenue, lost revenue of about $30,000 to $40,000 that we're bringing in, plus you're gonna have to pay $35 a day for these inmates that we're shipping out. Risk of the injuries to my correctional officers and lawsuits, if I don't have enough people, and I told them the other day, I can't run the jail, Sam can't run the jail, I'm sorry, if he don't have enough people, because I'm not gonna send one person into a pod to break up a fight or to do checks, and we have to put eyes on every inmate in that facility once every hour. And we have to do that, we have to document that, and I'm not gonna send somebody in a pod by themselves. Unless I absolutely have to, because we've seen what happens there. We got a risk of lawsuits from inmates if we don't have enough people there, enough correctional officers, somebody gets hurt, if there's a fight, we don't get it broke up, we're at risk for lawsuits. We got expense and manpower due to transporting inmates to court from other places. If I ship some of these inmates out, we still got to go pick them up and take them to court. And I don't know how I'm going to do that if I don't have the proper. Okay. Revenue from inmate boarding, I just mentioned that. To date, actually that's going to be $204,000 because we included the insurance reimbursement on that. But with 4 months remaining of the year, I project we're going to be at bringing in $300,000 to $350,000 of revenue for the county, and we're averaging about right now about 50,000, Sam. A little bit less.
We're getting back towards there, yes.
Yeah, right before COVID, we were getting up to $60,000 a month is what we were bringing in for boarding inmates. And what happened during the COVID was the state started getting rid of their inmates and letting everybody out of jail, so they started recalling so they wouldn't have to pay it. Now they're keeping more people and locking more people up, so we can get more inmates. That's what the jail is bringing in for the county every year, average. And that's a pretty low estimate. I think next year it's going to be a lot more than that. If we continue to run the jail like that.
Sheriff or Sam, sorry to interrupt you, do you know what it costs to house one of those inmates per day?
On the county, I was figuring it up because it's a really hard estimate to come up with. Because if you take our entire budget and just divide it by the amount of inmates, it's going to be a lot more than what you would think, because we have to keep the electricity on, and that's not only for the inmates. They have to keep the water on, that's not only for the inmates. When I figured up with their uniforms and things of that nature, it balanced out to roughly $28 a day. So with state inmates, we can make a profit. You're not necessarily going to, because you have your county inmates, which there's no money coming in from them. You have to house them, that's just a part of doing business with a jail. But for state inmates, we make a small margin of profit off of them. That usually used to go towards our the payoff on the jail for the money we got for it. And I believe that might still be where it goes, a lot of it. The money we get from...
It just goes simply...
It just goes into the general fund? Okay, yeah. But that's one of the previous lieutenants, when he was at Jail Administrator Anderson, they kept us right around 98 inmates to 100, and that's where we got the almost 60,000 coming in per month, and that's what I'm trying to get our numbers back to. We're getting up towards the mid-80s right now, and I'm just trying to find state inmates I can bring from other places to try and bring that revenue up.
So if you got to 98 again or whatever, you probably would be making us a little bit of money
Yes.
instead of breaking even. Okay.
But,
That's the hope.
good thing, if I have to send inmates out, if I close the jail and send the inmates out, how much is it going to cost?
The first thing they're going to do is take state inmates, and that's just takes any money we make, and that just takes it all away. And then we'll have to start paying people to take our county inmates, and that's never a good thing. We used to have to do that when we had the contract with Henry County, when we had the small jail over here, and bleed money is the only way you can put it.
I heard deputies. How many correctional officers are you short right now?
Right now, we just hired 2 this week. We were down 4, so we're back up where we're only down 2. I'm certified, we're still down 4 though.
All right. Any questions for the sheriff on the pay scale? We got 2 more things for him before we move on, before we let him go. Questions on the pay scale? All right. Okay, Sheriff, capital project, capital request. On page 6. showing $145,000, 2 patrol vehicles and 1 canine patrol vehicle.
If y'all don't mind me going back, I know you saw that we had 32,000 in our vehicle maintenance. We have about 20 vehicles in our fleet right now that are 2015 and forward. We actually have a 2004 Crown Vic that we're still utilizing. And, you know, with this fleet aging like it is, it's costing us a lot more to keep these vehicles up. Now, last year's budget, we asked for 3. We hadn't got those vehicles yet, and we could be October before we get those vehicles. I spoke to Stephen Blackstock, he's our Ford rep through the state contract. He said Ford said that we'll be sending these vehicles out all the way up through October. So I don't even know when we're going to get these 3 vehicles. I will say that when we walked through the door in 2018, we were paying a little over 29,000 points for. In 2021, we paid 33. We got some then. I think we got 3. They were about 33.5, 31. The ones we're getting this year are at 36. And he said if we have to order 24s, they're going up to $40,000. We get trucks for our canines. When we first started and getting canine trucks, they were actually less than Explorers. They were at 32. He said they're going up in 2024. They could go as high as 45, but he said you count on about 42,000 for a truck. So we're asking for 2 patrol vehicles and a canine. I will say this, I know you saw our drug fund. One of the things that we put in there is for equipment. We could probably equip our canine truck out of our drug fund, which would cost the county nothing other than just the cost of the vehicle. So that's what we're asking for. Hopefully, if we get the 3 that we've ordered and if we get these other ones, then we probably can phase out all these Crown Vics. We've got Crown Vics ranging from 2004 all the way up to 2010 that we're still using. And hopefully, if we can get these newer vehicles, ultimately, I'm hoping we can phase out those Crown Vics because they're they've been costing us money and they're going to cost us money in the future. Same thing with these older Explorers. When we replace a water pump on one of these older Explorers, it costs us about $1,700, and we've done that on just about every one of our 2013 and 2015 Explorers because they have to go in there with this engine style that they have, and they have to replace the timing chain and everything. It doesn't have to take the whole front engine off to replace it. So that gets pretty expensive. But we have to maintain these vehicles because, you know, it's like the sheriff said, you know, when we get here, we got to take that vehicle off the road and try to put them in something to keep them on the road. But as I said, right now, we want 2 in the 23-24 budget year, and then a truck to replace an aging Expedition that we converted over to a canine.
All right. Any questions about the?
Dale, how many vehicles do you have in your fleet?
Right now, counting everything, we've got about 39.
39?
Now that counts, that's counting the bus for the litter patrol, that's counting jail vehicles too, which I don't know if y'all remember, we purchased 2 2015 Tauruses for transport. We bought those out of the drug fund money and went to Missouri and got them. And to replace some aging Crown Vics that we were using to go off on transport, you know, at times we go up over 200 miles to get somebody, and you don't want to take a 2010 Crown Vic that could break down before you get to Paris Landing. So we did replace those with some newer vehicles, but yeah, we're still, our court officers are driving 2009, 2010 Crown Vics, just so we got something sitting over there in front of the courthouse. And like I said, hopefully we can phase those out, maybe get keep those older Explorers, but with no more traveling that they do. That's the same thing with our SROs. They were all in Crown Vics. We got them in Explorers, they're older Explorers. They're not putting near the miles on an Explorer that a patrol deputy is. You know, they drive back and forth to the school generally. But right now, serviceable vehicles, we've got about 39 in our fleet.
And I'm going to tell you what, also, Mr. Fitzhugh, one of those vehicles is a van we use for jury duty. We transport people in the jury. And the other one is an old Ford Expedition that we use for litter pickup too, where we got big items and we hook a trailer to it, like we get sodas and stuff, and we go out. And that's another thing. My litter pickup suffers when I don't have correctional officers either, because I send the inmates out without anybody, they might not come back.
David, you may have said this, those that you have ordered, those vehicles, did you say when you expected those in, or they can't tell you?
The Ford rep under state contract said it could be as late as October. We put in this order back in August of last year. But he, as of this afternoon when I spoke to him, he said that Ford's not giving him a definite date, that they plan on building these cars all the way up through October, and that's just the 2023s.
Chief, do y'all do an inventory on the insurance vehicle, on your insurance policy compared to vehicles?
We do, and I worked with Tom on that, and some of our older Crown Vics, we've done them because if something happened, then we're probably not going to get what we want out of them. We've dropped full coverage on them. We only have liability insurance on them. Just simply because if something happened to them, we're not going to get enough money to replace them. So we've dropped the full coverage and just gone to liability on those. The other ones, we've got to keep full coverage on the ones that we utilize, that we're transporting, but just, again, for liability. But working with Tom, we have taken some of the the older ones off of full coverage and did stuff liability on.
The reason I asked that is I sat with Tom last week and just going through some things. The sheriff's office is currently paying insurance on 47 vehicles. At approximately between $1,800 and $2,000 a month. That's the reason I was asking if an inventory was kept up. He gave me an entire list of your vehicles, but with y'all having 39 serviceable vehicles, that
also counts ones that come off through the total. And I talked to Tom, as a matter of fact, the first part of the week, we're carrying one that was totaled that we no longer use, the two, so it should have come off.
But those should be coming off.
They should be coming off. So like I said, I try to stay in contact with you. And then of course we also carry, when I say a serviceable vehicle, and I know it's a note here, we purchased a Polaris. Again, with drug fund money, and it's insured. It's carried as one of our serviceable vehicles. We don't drive it all the time, but it is carried.
I did see that one on there. I was just wondering about the other 8, $16,000 a year we could be getting rid of.
All right. Any more questions for the sheriff or anybody there? All right, thank you guys very much. Ms. Heather, I think you need to come up here for the duration of this agenda.
Yes, sir.
It looks like it's all you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I don't know, it's cold.
It's freezing.
Get out.
Oh, it's freezing.
All right. Ms. Heather. Page 14.
Okay, this, page 14 is just a simple budget amendment. This is in the debt service fund, it's $5, it's just a transfer,
Well, we need to take a vote on that, right?
Yeah, we ought to.
All right. Yeah, we need to do that. We need to hear a motion. Motion, Mr. Stewart. Do we have a second? Second, Mr. Quinn. I don't think we need any discussion on that. All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, Ms. Heather.
Okay.
Page 15.
Page 15, now that you've heard from all the various departments, this is a full list of the capital requests. So I'll just run through them real quick. The highways got, and Ronnie did come back and tell me it's not tandem, it is single axle. So it is 2 single axle dump trucks where they can put the snow plower spreader on the front. And that's 2 for $300,000. The EMS is asking for that ambulance, which I have a note below. I'll speak to that in a second. Sheriff's Department just spoke. They've got 2 normal patrol vehicles at $90,000, the K9 one at $55,000, and then the school system, which they will be speaking to their budget in April, but I went ahead and put it on here so you can see all the capital requests. They'll ask for one bus, 145,000, and then a half of a bus. I know it sounds weird, but they need 3 buses. They're asking the county to pay for 1.5. So that's what that is. Total is almost 800,000 for capital requests. The one, and you'll see it later when I get to the capital projects funds, the one vehicle for the EMS, it was already budgeted for 110,000. Greg spoke to you about that in the current budget. He talked again. They looked online. Right now there are no chassis available, so we're going to hold it. In June we'll reevaluate, but we'll be pulling that out of this year's budget most likely. And then he said the current cost is 130, so we will just move that into next year's capital projects fund.
Well, that brings up another question. I looked at you just a minute ago, that when they were speaking of the sheriff's department about their vehicles, that they've got some order that obviously probably not going to come in before July 1st. How we?
It's considered what's called an encumbrance. It's a little different than expenditure. We basically accrue it. It looks a little odd on the financials, but you put it into this year, and then when we actually go to pay it, the budgets just look a little strange. It's an accounting entry. That's the way the state Tennessee does it. But it's like an accrual.
That is different than what Greg's asking for, which is just to pull his.
Yeah, he's pulling his out
Pull his
completely.
out and put it into another one, so he's not asking for an encumbrance.
Encumbrance, yes.
There you go.
Whatever. All right, any questions on the new capital request? Okay, let's go to 16 and 17. That looks pretty complicated to me.
Yes, and the reason I'm just showing this is because it is so complicated. I'm not expecting y'all to read this verbatim, but for a long time now, the sales tax allocations, I've been with the county almost 15 years. It is the most convoluted, complex thing, I think, in the entire state of Tennessee. I've talked to CTAS. The county trustee is the one that has to allocate out this money as it comes in between the school, the county, and the debt service fund. Best I can understand, it was done, I think Margie did a little history, 30, 40 years ago, state audit came up with sort of a way to do the sales tax. There's not even any documentation. It's just a procedure we followed for years, and state audit just follows that we're doing the correct procedure. So the problem that exists is a few things. One, it's extremely complex. There's a lot of room for error. But the thing I really don't like about it, and I've been asked this over the years when we do budgets, it's not transparent to the public. If you look at the certain budgets, because we're doing this, raising our revenue, and then we're doing transfers out with one thing. If you look, for example, at the debt service fund gets the most sales tax of any of the funds, but if you look at the revenue line, it's 0, because all the sales tax is being shown in contributions and transfers in. To me, it's just, there's no reason for it. So I've thought about it for a few years, and I went to the state, talked to CTAS, the State Division of Audit, and they said, absolutely, we can simplify it. The only rules is if you switch off the system, we have to make sure that 50% of the sales tax does go to the school. So if you do that, they're going to get a much larger chunk, and I have talked to the school as well. I had a meeting with Chris Quinn last week, but you'll have to lower another tax, so I'm proposing that we lower the property tax. So instead of all this, what we do, we literally take it in, she takes 4 nines and 5 nines, she divides it out, puts half here, then the school transfers back a portion into the debt service fund. I had to take a portion of mine, transfer it over. We just want to make it very simple. We just want to make it that the school gets 50%, and then the county, and I'm sorry, let me break that back. You have 3 taxes coming in. You have Cumberland City, you have Dover, and the Stewart County sales tax. So the school would take 50% of each of those. When you're dealing with the Cumberland City or the Dover, that's already the way it is. The school takes 50%, and the cities then take their 50%, and that is basically a law, the way that works. On the county side is the one that gets tricky. So we would just propose the school takes 50%, and then the county general fund and the debt service just split the other 50%, 25-25, and make it as simple as that. That way, there is no transfers in. When anybody is looking at our budgets online, it makes sense. They can see the revenue is the revenue, and that's exactly what it was. So there's a couple reasons, and that's mainly for transparency, and it's also when you're dealing with this and you're trying to budget, I have to prove my methodology to the state. If I'm increasing it too much, you also run the risk of increasing MOE to the school, so that's another issue that becomes a concern. So those are the reasons for it. I'll walk through what I do propose, but that's page 16 shows what we currently do, and then page 17 is showing that proposal. Oh, there is one more piece of it. There is this annual contribution that was made many, many years ago, I don't even know how long ago, 40 plus years, that the school had to contribute something to debt service. So back then, they just came up with the number, I mean, I'm sure there was more thought to it back then, I just don't know the history, but they came up with $60,000. It's been that amount ever since I've been here. I think it was many, many years prior to me. Why that amount number doesn't really make any sense, so,
Hey Heather,
yes.
that was what we had left of BEP that we couldn't spend otherwise.
I figured there was some kind of methodology, yeah. So, but I talked with audit on that, and they said there's no reason you have to do that specific. So, in this whole thing, I've worked the MOE with CTAS to try to keep it exactly the same or very close to, just giving them a little bit more, because they typically get a little bit more every year with property tax increases, et cetera. So, we would just get rid of the 60,000. We still have the 15,000 that we would keep, because if you look at the tax levy resolution right now, we give them 60,000, but then we waive 15,000 because we share an auto mechanic. As long as we're going to share that mechanic, we sort of have to have a way to transfer that through. So we would just still say it's 15,000, but we're waiving it, so there's actually no money transfer between the school and I. And just, again, to simplify it. So that's where I am, and then I'll walk you through, basically, the way the sales tax comes in. We would give, the way we're budgeting, and I also, because the school made a comment, you know, they're like me, they're a little concerned with inflation, you know, things in the economy right now. So we based, we looked at the sales tax. Last year I did it on a 3-year average, so I based it on the 4-year average this year. So that means the school would get $1,620,000 in sales tax. And then the debt service fund and the county would get each $503,000. Sales tax is been very consistent. I've seen 1 or 2 months where it dropped a little below what it was the same month last year, but all in all, it's still up a little percent. I mean, it's still up percentage-wise. But a 4-year average just gives us a little bit more conservative of a view in case we're starting to see, like I said, the last month or two, they've started leveling out a little bit, I guess you would say. So, with that being said, the school last year, if you look at their budget, they got $1,490,000, but they transferred out $563,000, so they actually only, it was $927,000 was their sales tax. So they're going from $927 all the way up to $1.6 million. So obviously, we would have to move another revenue source down to keep the MOE in line. So that would bring them down to 6 cents in property tax. I know that sounds like a chunk, but that's what the offset would be. So again,
What are they getting at?
I think they're 25 cents right now. Yeah, off the top of my head. I walked it through. Chris said as long as the numbers at the end of the day, their revenues are the same or a little bit more, they're fine with that. He can't speak for their board, but and at the end of the day, it's commission's decision. It's not the school's decision. So, but that's what I'm proposing, so that we can just keep this a little cleaner and make it a much simpler process for myself, the trustee, the school, etc.
First question I have, are you okay with that?
I am very much okay with that, yes.
That answers a lot of questions for me, right there. All right, any questions on that? That's a whole lot to swallow. And
Is the county okay with that?
I mean, it doesn't, financially, it's no different. We're just making it so that
Making it
it's
simple.
easier to
Just a
understand.
little simpler.
Yeah.
Just a little simple. All right, Ms. Heather.
Okay, so if we do that, like I said, we would have to lower the school's property tax to offset that big increase in sales tax that they'll get. So this, right now, is where we are. Our certified tax levy rate is 2.3607.
She's on page 18
Oh.
now.
I didn't skip anything, did I?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry, yes, I did
You're
move forward.
fine. You're fine. I
Okay.
just want everybody to know where we're
Page
at.
18, yes, apologize about that, but okay, so school, we would take them at 6 cents. You have 2 buckets here, this is what you see every year. I guess I should back up, I think I've spoken to some, but the penny right now is $31,606. It's a little bit of increase from last year. Assessments, of course, went up a little bit. That's where the increase in the penny is. We're still leaving it at a 5% delinquency rate. That is pretty much a CTAS recommended standard across the board. I can say we typically do better than that. The trustee says this year they've had really good collections. I know she's literally driven out to people's houses and tried to really push for collections. So she says that the delinquency should come in pretty good this year. In all said, so the highway is exactly the same as where they are. They have .0834. I didn't change that. The capital projects fund, I rounded it, it was .07 and some change. I just made it a nice even number since we were moving some pennies around. That still basically came within $5,000 of the exact same amount for last year. And then right now, the debt service, what I did there is I gave them enough pennies to basically break even, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but basically so they don't have a deficit or a surplus, they're basically at zero for the year because they have a very healthy fund balance right now. And then the rest of the pennies I put into 101, so to help offset our inflations and things that have gone up. So that is a proposal for right now. I'm not saying this will be the end proposal, but this is the starting point. If Commission decides to do a lot of the things, the requests we've seen, then we may have to do something different, mainly between general debt service and the county fund.
All right, any questions on that? Okay, so let's go to 19 and 20.
19 and 20 is the capital projects fund. So like I said, the only vehicle that I've proposed thus far to put in here is the one for Greg. That is the EMS ambulance, the $130,000 you'll see on row 50. Outside of that, the other capital projects would be about a little over $650,000. I would propose that we try to look at the remaining ARPA-free revenues monies we have. We have about $700,000 left. We do have to use those funds before December 2024, so I think that might be an area where we don't have to issue any debt, and we don't have to use any tax pennies to try to cover that. We can just try to use the remaining ARPA. After the ARPA funds, there's an additional funds that we're getting. We've gotten half of it thus far. It's around $600,000 in local assistance tribal consistency fund. That money, the mayor's got some uses that we're looking at for that. So hopefully that money can serve its purpose for some grants and other things we're looking at. But the ARPA money needs to get spent first in my mind so that we can, the other one, we've got a little longer to spend that money. Actually, there is no time limit, I'm sorry, on the other one, they told me. So. Yes, you can absolutely. The way they did it is we're reporting everything as ARPA-free revenue. We're not reporting it as capital or anything. That was what we were advised to do by the White House, actually. And the county audit, basically, they just want it all considered revenue loss, and then you can use it as you see fit.
I know y'all were crazy, I think I was crazy when I came in, and she told me that they even changed the name of ARPA even to freed up money, but since September. They did, didn't they? That's what you told me. Freed up money, freed up money.
Well, ARPA freed revenue, I mean, I have to specifically say that term because that is the way they want you to report it.
So
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, it was you guys, myself and Heather, but we cut $320,000, say around $320,000 in ARPA money. And we had this in plan the whole time to use it as these capital projects. But what I don't want myself or you guys to forget is ARPA's gone.
Right.
We don't have ARPA anymore. And what she's telling me is these the capital projects are coming in higher and higher every year. They're not backing up. So any money that we think about dipping in and bringing out this year and moving around for continuous revenue or continuous expenditures, we got to remember we're going to have $7, $8, $9 million in capital projects next year, and Uncle Sam he's out of money for us. So we really dipping into these other accounts. We really got to be careful with it. Even think about going to put money back, especially for capital projects, which Heather mentioned today, and I think it is a fantastic idea. Down the road a little bit that we start thinking about having a capital projects fund, because ours is at zero, right?
No, we have 7 pennies that go there, but we started that about 2 years ago. Yeah, so
Compared to what?
yeah, we basically just started at 0 a year or two ago, getting that back up again. So he's absolutely right.
When do we have to use the ARPA?
By December 2024, it needs to all be spent, or at least obligated, but I'd rather just get it spent so we can report it. If we have it used, that's acceptable. But like you said, if we use that, then that's pretty much, there'll be a slight amount left, but it's pretty much going to use up the remaining funds that we got through COVID. In the last 3 years, the capital request, you can see this year it's about $800,000. They've been about $1 million, anywhere from $700,000 to $1 million. So that is something we're going to have to consider after this year. We funded them last year with COVID monies too. So then we're gonna have to look at other ways to fund them.
Sure don't need to be borrowed no money, 10%.
Yeah, unfortunately, rates have gone up, so.
All right, any questions about that before we move on to debt service? Okay, let's go to page 21.
So page 21, I show this to you every year, and I know everybody knows exactly probably when that year is, in 24, 25, so it's not this coming budget year, but the following. Yes, we will have almost $1 million rolling off the debt service, but
You just said
I
that.
just said.
You just said the capital project's gonna eat that up.
Exactly. I mean, if you think of it that way, it's almost going to go straight towards capital projects if you didn't want to get into debt issuances.
We don't wanna do that, do we, Mr. Taylor?
So that just sort of gives you an outline. As the years go on, you know, they stay pretty consistent the next 3 years, and then we have a lot more that's going to be rolling off, close to $1 million, well, the 3 years combined, and close to $1 million again. However, I'm sure as the years go on, we can also have additional capital requests, so we could have to issue debt for something of a building construction renovation, anything could be like that. So,
All right, 22 and 23.
22.
Debt payments by month.
yes, sir, 22 and 23 just shows the breakdown. Sometimes people want to see what, I get questions about, you know, which ones are school, which ones are general government. So this just sort of breaks down each note by the month that I have to make payment on the bills. And those totals are right now for this year, again, it'll be about 2.6 million. We pay a debt issuance, or debt payments, I'm sorry. So that's the breakdown, goes through the months. We used to have to worry when I first came in about a cash flow issue. We don't have that problem right now because our debt service fund is, like I said, it's over 100% funded. So when I say over 100%, meaning we wouldn't have to have a penny of revenue all year, and I can make every single debt payment because it's going to end at about a $4 million fund balance this year. So, and the big reason for that was the huge influx of sales tax these last few years. So that was a big chunk where the debt service got that.
All right. 24 and 25.
24 and 25, I'm showing you what the debt service fund is. And like I said, if you look, a lot of you always want to just go right to like page 25, that bottom number there. That 4 million in the far right column, column K, that I just basically see the negative 984. I was just trying to make the pennies where it would basically break even. Do I think you need a fund balance of 4 million? No, but at the same time, when you do start pulling pennies, you just need to understand that it's, you know, it's not reoccurring. So
We
you're
pulled some of that out last year, right?
No, we did not. Oh, well, I'm sorry. Yes, we did. We did have a. As you can see, it looks like we didn't because it shows a surplus of 200,000, and I think it's even going to be a little better than that this year. We actually budgeted with a deficit of about 60,000, but it didn't go that way. It's going to be good.
Good.
Not too bad.
Good.
Yeah.
You know how much debt we got now?
Totals, it's actually on that page.
2.252.
Well, 2.6 million is how much we pay per year, or how much we'll pay this. You're talking about the total. That is, yeah, you can see it, about $15 million.
About 38 million.
It's on page 21 here.
Yes, 21. So if you see 21, when we start on 7/1, we'll have 15,725,000 in debt.
It was 38.
Oh, it was huge. When I started, it was about $40,000. I mean, $40 million.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay. 24, 25, you got that?
Yeah, so 24 and 25 is simply showing you enough pennies to just keep it exactly where it is on the fund balance.
Anybody have any questions about that while she's sitting here? All right, 26.
26.
Mr. George, you look at them.
I'm just showing you the notice that we put in the paper. The next
We
meeting.
expect you to be here.
The school board will meet on April 13th with their school budgets, and then they'll be ready. I talked to them. They did confirm that they can come on the 17th, so they'll be able to show their full budget. I can come back. I've shown you all the budgets. You saw drug fund too with the sheriff today, so you've seen all the budgets other than the county general fund. The reason I don't have that is I sort of, like last year, need a little direction on that. If you want to see different versions with everything that's been requested, just to see bare minimum. I mean, I can do it any way we want, but basically, you all do need to see the revenue side versus the expenditure side. I can give you a little insight, obviously, I've started running numbers. I'll be looking at it a little more closely, but right now, if you just had everybody move on their step scale, no 5% COLA, no additional step raises, with the pennies that I've shown in that property tax, you're at about $450,000 deficit, which isn't too crazy. We started last year with a deficit of $700,000. So
That's a fire around it, too.
yeah, we did. So the deficit would actually be a little lower, and the reason for that is the TVA monies are up, sales tax is up, property tax is up, just some general fees that come through your courthouse officials, those are up. So it looks pretty good without adding anything new. If we were to add a 5% COLA, that's $260,000. That would be across the board, including the sheriff and jail. Now, if you don't do, if you did it, well, you saw the numbers for the sheriff and jail, they were just a little under $500,000 if you were to do the increase that he's, correct. So that, but keep in mind that about 110,000 of that would come back down because they wouldn't be getting the 5% COLA, they would just be doing that. So, hope that makes sense. Because I don't think he's asking for both, he would be asking for that step raise, not the 5%. So.
I didn't want the 5%. I heard it.
So, if you were to do all that, that would bring your deficit. If you were to give him what he requested, the sheriff requested, and you were to do 5% COLA, you're talking about a deficit that's just slightly over $1 million. So that's probably not something I would recommend. So, so you're going to have to look to do something either with, you might be able to dip into some of the debt service fund pennies moving over, but it's a decision on how much. And I'm willing to work with you any way we can.
What do you feel comfortable? That's a trick.
Where's the range there?
I mean, I think you could move 5, I feel absolutely comfortable with, because that would bring your fund balance and debt service to exactly where it was in 21-22, around the 3.8 million range. Could you do a little bit more? Yes, we budget conservatively. I mean, when you budgeting 101 is you underestimate your revenues and you overestimate your expenditures. That's not me, that's just what you do in budgeting. It's been great for us the last few years, but we are in a weird economy right now, so we do need to keep in mind that things can happen. Sales tax may not be as great as it has been if people can't buy these extra items. So if we dip into debt service, we're certainly okay for a number of years, but down the road, it could certainly bite you because that capital is going to be hitting, and at some point you have to then raise taxes. Would it happen soon? No, you could probably get by for a few years because you've got large fund balances that you could dip down into. But that's just one of those things that it's finding that perfect number.
So you wouldn't recommend over 5 cents or less than 5?
No, I would recommend up to 10.
I would.
10 cents.
And that
I feel
third,
comfortable with 10.
that third,
So that's 310,000.
mean 300,000.
Yeah, it's probably a little over 300, yeah.
All right. You give us a lot to think about now.
You ain't it.
Got a lot to digest here, so we don't have any scheduled meeting for the 17th.
We don't.
Well,
We got one on the 10th.
we got one on the 10th.
And I don't have budget finance on the 10th, because we've already brought all the budget amendments to you. I tried to do that so we didn't have to meet again. So unless there's
So on the 10th, it's
It's
just
just
7 o'clock.
county commission, yes, sir.
All right, anything else?
Do you need
Yeah, I would like to ask a question. Do we have to buy forward?
Can't get no bill.
That is a good question.
I mean, I don't think you're locked into any specific brand. It might be, I know the sheriff's, you talk about the sheriff's office,
Yeah.
right? They're buying off of a state contract, and he's absolutely right. We, as soon as the budgets were approved, we got on it, and we,
You can't get them.
yeah, we ordered them in August, so we're seeing it though with buses, we're seeing it with ambulances, patrol vehicles. It's just vehicles are, unless you can buy a used one or one that's already on the dealer's lot, it's,
I can speak to that. Darrell works for City of Erin Police, they can't get their vehicles either.
same thing. Do they do Ford as well?
They're going to die. Now, they can't get them there either.
I think that's pretty well.
Talking about it, you can't get them in there, that's what I have.
I mean, in a
my head.
personal vehicle,
Right
it's
now.
hard to find inventory, yeah.
They can't get to them either.
Clint did just ask, as far as bringing the general fund, would you like me, I mean, I shared with you some numbers, and I will look, the one thing I might increase a little bit, and I'll know in another month, you'll even tell me more, they were absolutely correct, the sheriff's office, when they did say that the jail inmate prisoner board has gone up. I was gonna budget about $300,000, that's about $25,000 a month. We have seen, since Sam stepped in as jail administrator, it's been going up the last 4 or 5 months, so it's been about $30,000 the last 2 months, so that might be an area I'm willing to pull up a little bit, that would help slightly with some revenue, so. But I do want to give them credit that that revenue is starting to go back up, we're starting to see that finally.
Do we know what I couldn't ask the question right earlier, do we know what the profit margin? I say profit, and you hate to use that word, but that's exactly what it is.
There,
Do you know what the margin is? Because we can say it, yeah, we're bringing in 60,000, but if we're spending 50,
I mean, I think Sam answered it as best she can, and you could take the whole budget and divide out, but that's not really an accurate picture. There's companies that come in and do analysis like that, and they'll say, I mean, the state pays us 41, and, but I think he said 28, I think is what he had calculated. I mean, I could work with them to try to verify that number, but it is a hard number, because there are certain expenses you're gonna have, it's, you know, overhead no matter what, no matter if you have 10 inmates or 100 inmates, so, or they're gonna be probably similar.
Does the state pay their medical and the state inmates?
If we,
Yeah, that's a good portion of it.
usually, I mean, it's hard, I only see them when we only get reimbursed when there's a big one. If you looked, that's why the sheriff, I think, had an incorrect number, because $60,000 that's sitting in the state inmate is a reimbursement on one inmate where we had a very large inmate medical reimbursement. So the jail administrator at the time started it up. I waited because I knew there'd be more medical bills, so instead of $20,000, we got almost $60,000 back, because I held it open for the full 6 months, because medical bills, they trickle. they just don't come in very fast, but that one was an air flight, you know, all kinds of things. Outside of that one, it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we got reimbursed $20,000, $30,000 on one, but they're rare. They're usually,
So if we have some medical costs on these inmates, we may not be.
we only, I guess, and I can't really speak to where you're allowed to do it. I just know the sheriff's office goes to seek reimbursement when it's a large one where something happened, where it was in excess of $10,000. So.
Anything else?
Clayton, you having any trouble getting dispatcher?
So we are full staffed right now. You know, their pay rate is very similar. You know, they're starting paying $12.50.
1250.
And part-time starts lower than that. $11.73 on part-time.
What about your bus driver?
Well, I got more quitting than I got coming in, so. You know, I think we've been pretty blessed this year. It takes forever to get a driver's license for them. Just months and months and months. You know.
I would like to see a figure of these deputies, if they're gonna get an increase. I wanna know what the percentage or what the total is that is, we pay 75% of their medical, and we pay, we pay retirement, and some of these other counties are not doing that. I know that for a fact.
So, like a payroll analysis, when we have a new hire, and I'll break it down for you, okay?
Right.
You can show.
What that deputy gonna be making, what we're paying him.
So like current, and then what,
Just put it in that, put it over in his salary and see what his salary is.
okay, you can do that.
I can't do that in my head, like.
Would there be any way to look at, I know, your overall, officer and your jailer, seem like that's who they're really pressing about, is the officer and the
Well,
jailer.
I'd just like to see some comparisons on those soldiers.
Yeah.
But everybody else was in it,
Huh?
but the whole department. is-
Well, all the department been thrown in.
Right.
And, I know it seems like they're talking more about having trouble getting officers and jailers is what they're having more trouble with. If it boils down to it, when Are you following me here?
Yeah, I got it.
Just like you had trouble with the bus drivers over there. And,
How many approximate employees do we have right now that are using the 1190 a lot? That's a start out. How many of those 30 employees over there make 1190?
I can tell you what the average is right now.
I mean, I'm sure it's gotta be the new hire. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, and he's right, I mean, not everybody's at 1190, but typically, most of their new ones, they will bring them in at 1190, unless it was a situation where somebody had experience or something that
so
might be
2 or 3 employees probably.
Yeah, but I can, well, I haven't turned over lately, so, I think I looked at the other day, it was around like, 13 or something.
I'm definitely for them, but one thing I did notice is they have a 10-year step scale. So after 10 years, we're saying we're trying to retain employees and bring employees back on, but we're telling them after 10 years, you're going to have to go somewhere else and work because we don't pay them. That's kind of the thing that we're doing right now with the 20-year employees. If I can get a 22-year employees, I want to pay them as much as I can. I want that knowledge, you know. And I had proposed to go from 20 to 25 years, at least this time till we can get ahead and figure out a better plan. But having a 10-year step scale with a ending pay is, I don't know.
Your average rate for the current fiscal year with the employees that they have right now would be $12.82, so overall 29 employees.
So it's still bad.
I'm just opposed to changes to the correctional officers. Looks to me like he's got, I'll use the word stagnant every 3 years.
Yeah, yes,
Unless you get like cost of living.
correct.
That's, and as you said, that's on 10 years.
After 10 years, you don't get anything from there to retirement unless.
So if you've got a 10-year deputy right now and you give them what they're paying, and what's the incentive for them to stay here 5 more years? Yeah.
They don't need more than that. They don't need
If that's years and not just steps, you know what I mean? Is each one of them a
I
year,
think that's a year.
or is it step one?
Well, it's just,
You know what
He
I'm
proposed
saying?
it as steps.
You're saying they top out at 10 years.
That's what his proposal is. I'm not saying that's
That's
right
what
Yeah,
now.
like the current one for the jail is
I know
20,
that.
he's proposing a 10-year.
That's what I'm thinking.
And the sheriff's is
20,
15 right now, and
Which
would
is
go to
not
10.
enough either.
Well, then there ain't no incentive to stay. But at the same time, I worked 2 jobs that I've left, for higher pay and better benefits, and that's just human nature.
Regardless of what is paid.
Here, you mentioned the dispatcher, I just reminded everybody, we asked last year to change their pay scale, and unfortunately that got cut out.
I
So
didn't understand.
last year we asked about the dispatcher pay scale, we asked to change that, but unfortunately that got cut out. So
Right.
that didn't happen last
When you started out at how much an
year.
hour?
1250, I think, is the starting step.
Well, the tax increase is in our future.
Might be.
You're talking about this year?
No,
No.
in our future.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't propose it when your fund balances are as healthy as they are,
Oh, no,
but
that's
yeah,
right.
but
Yeah,
certainly,
but
at
it
some
wouldn't take
point,
long to get that up.
it's the capital that's really going to, it'll be a decision if you decided, you know, do you
Well,
want
I
to issue
would-
debt or do you want to raise taxes?
I would hope that the economy would get better before that happens, you know,
That's true too.
is what I'm hoping for.
I'm afraid it's gonna keep
Right
going down.
now,
I
right
hope
now,
it will in 2024.
Do you, if we get some debt, do you know what you can use for it?
I was going to do that, I just didn't get time today, but,
Okay.
I mean, rates,
We got a
yeah, I mean, you know, in the personal market, I know people are, mortgages are getting denied left and right. County luckily is a good rating, and, I mean, any debt we have right now is 3%, in the 3% or lower, but I would imagine we're gonna be paying around 5 or so, at least.
Well, we wouldn't need this year,
No,
anyway.
yeah.
Okay.
Marty Spears, is that right? Marty Spears? That's who come to the office a couple weeks ago? Yeah. He told me they had some of the best rates going, and then he was at like 5.5, 5.75.
That's the Tennessee Municipal Bond Fund, that's who we have a lot of our debt with,
That's
yeah.
where, so,
We don't have none of that.
No, we refinanced everything that we had, so when the rates were as low as they were. And we have some that are, 1%. break, and then I figured we'd wait till, for budget finance to come back after the school has their budget on the 13th, so you can start to see everybody's.
I wish I got a spring break.
You've been on spring break a long time, but
Yeah, right. The school will be what we working on, if I turn in my
School and the
retirement.
county general. With that being said, do you just want me to bring back with all the requests in there and just see? Like I said, I believe it's gonna be about $1 million deficit, but I can show it and just, you know.
well, I think it'd be good to put it all in there and then we cut it down from there.
I think a line with everything and then a line with 5%.
That's right.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's right.
okay. Two different columns, one with just 5% across the board, and the other one with all requests, including the library, because the library had a request too.
Yeah.
Okay. On that 5% COLA, I can remember election commission, for example, he asked for a 2.5% raise on his part-time. You want me to just change anything like that to a 5% COLA? For their, I mean, if they ask, I think he may have been the only one asked for something specific, other than the sheriff and the library, but anybody like that, just make it 5% across.
Well, he's got a lot of part-time people too, sure.
Yes.
Will you be adding the 5% to the 25 year right now, or are you still gonna stop the step at 20?
Everybody.
Oh, well, the 5% would be everybody, because it basically just takes all your current step raise and moves them up 5%.
Okay, but will you be, okay.
And then anybody who was off of it, they would get
I meant
5.
when you brought the specific budget line back, will it take a 22-year employee and give them back their 2% or whatever? Do you
It would
do
just,
that
like,
with
so if it's a 25-year employee, they would just get 5%. I mean, that's what they would get, yeah. Because they're already off the step scale.
That's what I'm asking, because I mean,
You're
proposal,
saying that, yeah, I got
proposal, I want that to
Oh.
go from 20 to 25 years.
Okay.
After 20 years, you do not have an incentive to work for us. So I would like for that to go to 20 to 25. I would like, if y'all are
To
okay
keep
with it, I'd
stepping
like, when
to
she
25.
brings that budget back, it can't be a large number. How many do we have, 4 or 5?
Oh, it could-
Right now, it's 6.
Put
6
that in
this
there
year.
with the 5%, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so, because what we did with the 6 this year is we did add that 1.5% because that was the, so you're
No,
saying
They
take,
wasn't many people, but
it was about 6 people, I'm pretty sure. So you're saying take anybody from 20 to go out to 25?
Whatever their department's last step scale is.
Okay.
So I think the sheriff, I actually like his the best, but it's 2% all the time.
Well,
right?
that's only, no, it's only for the deputies. If it's a correctional officer, they have this, and clerical people, they're on a different scale. So they're different.
And 5% is crazy. Well, I really want, I mean.
The clerical people are 1.5, and if they're there at the 19 to 20 year, they move 1.5% for clerical and for the correctional
Whatever their
officers.
last year pay scale says, I would like for that
To be, but just go to 25 or, okay,
do we have any,
continuous?
I mean, we can rehash it out later when we.
We've got one that's 25.
She's
She's in this room. Of course, this year, we're just stepping at 1.5. I didn't, we didn't go retro, but.
And we don't have to put
yeah.
a year on it right now, but I would like, so what we're trying to accomplish for what my goal is I would like to see everyone take their step, and I would like to see everyone get a
The
5.
5% on top of it.
Yeah, does that,
Yes.
I know I
Yeah.
confused you.
No, I got it now, yeah.
You're looking at what, 6 point?
6.5, 7% maybe. Yeah, and that's what,
What's that gonna do to our figure?
Well,
you already got it figured in there. The
Yeah.
numbers you've looked at already had that figured in.
No, they
The
don't.
2%.
No,
No,
they
I'm talking
just,
about the step. I'm
yeah,
talking
they
about
have the step, yeah, they don't have to, the 5% is an additional $260,000 roughly. Because a part-time person is only gonna get 5% because they don't have a step. And the step person is gonna get anywhere from, like you said, 6.5 to 7, depending on if their step is 1.5 or 2%.
When you're
We're
saying,
talking about adding 260,000 with the 5.
On top of the numbers that you have.
On our.
Yeah, on top of the numbers that are in
Yes,
there, that's correct, right?
That is correct.
You did put the steps on
The
it.
steps are, yeah, the normal steps are in here, just not a 5% COLA is reflected anywhere.
What was the percentage you gave EMS last year? What was the percentage you gave EMS last year?
10.3 for EMTs and 10.9 for paramedics.
11%.
Huh?
11%.
Well, I remember him telling that the other time. I can't remember anything, but I can remember that.
When you are talking about, instead of somebody talking out in 20 years, raising it to 25, is that what you're saying?
Or whatever you guys come up with, 20 years, guys, there's no incentive to stay with Stewart County. We got a young lady over at the courthouse, she's getting close to 20. Well, she's still a young lady, I mean, she's just worked there her whole life. Well, I hate to see somebody that's just worked there a year or two, I'm glad I got my step scale this year. Well,
They should
wait till
be,
you're here 20 and you don't get it. So.
they should be topped out.
Just wait.
They shouldn't be topped out at 20 years.
They looking to take early retirement at 55?
Yes,
Okay,
or 25 years, but a penalty on both.
I understand. Okay, so if they come in at age 20, we'll say.
Okay.
At 55, that's 35 years, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm ready to go to 30. I'm ready, I'll go to 30, 35 out here.
Yes, with 30 years of service, there's no penalty. Yeah.
That's good with service. I never seen anything like that for 30 years. I've been out there
We know
for,
where he was going with that.
I've been punching rivets for 48 years and it don't matter.
All right,
Motion to read that down.
there you go, Rudy, you have a second.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
Sorry about